What's up, metal and heavy music fans? It's Flight of Icarus again with MetalTrenches.com, and today I've got 5 albums that I would recommend to people getting into Blackened Thrash. And hey, if you like to be kept up to date with the best and brightest metal bands and albums from the underground and above, then stick with me by hitting that subscribe button down below. Alright, so Absu kind of sits on the fence as far as the underground goes. If you're into black metal, chances are good that you have probably at least heard of Absu. Otherwise, maybe not so much, but these Texans, led by highly talented drummer-vocalist Prescriptor McGovern, are the first USBM band to change my mind about whether North America can do the genre justice. And while so many others seek to fuse the sound with new ideas, Absu simply rides forth with its highly technical, almost Dillinger-esque no-holds-barred take on Blackened Thrash. And of course, 2001's Terra is commonly cited as their finest hour, for good reason. From the amazing, almost Judas Priesty opening scream of a shield with an iron face, to the strangely catchy riffs of Mananan, to the almost memeable syncopated screams of She Cries the Quiet. This album is positively loaded with classic moments that will stick in your brain and keep you coming back. Start to finish, it's an absolute masterwork, and if you ask me, ahead of its time in terms of showcasing how the black metal genre can be both technical and raw at the same time. If you want something a little bit more modern in the production department that is equally impressive, I also recommend their 2011 album Absu, spelled with a Z, but unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, I suppose, due to some controversy between band members, Absu is no more. But Prescriptor has promised to push forwards with his new offshoot project, Prescriptor McGovern's Absu. Next up, Vektor is a band that at this point probably needs no introduction. Their 2016 album Terminal Redux took the world by storm with its perfect blend of wild black metal vocals, dizzying progressive songwriting, and epic sci-fi aesthetic. Clearly the guitars absolutely own this album. I adore the fusion of thrash speed and tone with the wonky, proggy arrangements. It sounds like Absu channeled through Exodus or Creator. But when it comes to this Philly band, no single instrument should take all of the credit. The drumming is equally maniacal with its constantly shifting time signatures and often very live, improvisational sounding fills. The bass guitar also makes its presence known too throughout the album with an approach that does far more than just fill out the basic melody, and of course the vocals are all over the place from the harsh snarls to some pretty shrill high notes. It seems that with Terminal Redux sometimes the masses do get things right. Definitely the best thrash album of that year and worthy of all of their top 10 support that it received. Big 4 be damned. Sadly, this band too has not managed to stay free of controversy in the years since, but I hear that the person in question has been getting some help and they are dropping a brand new album the very week that this video goes up. Arguably the most well-known band on this list, Ohio's Skeletonwitch has been making waves since forming in 2003, dropping a number of critically lauded albums, but none of them can match the raw power of 2013's Serpents Unleashed. No, not even the oft name-dropped Beyond the Permafrost even comes close, if you ask me. I will argue to the death that this was the band's peak. Featuring 11 utterly bodying tracks made even more ferocious by the production work of none other than Converge's Kurt Ballou, they have never sounded better before or since. It's also the last album to feature the disgustingly phlegmy sounding vocals of original vocalist Chance Garnett, who was fired from the band not long after. It really is a shame because I don't think this is really the same band without those trademark snarls. In any case, the riffs are fantastic, the pacing is incredible, and I love the heavy metal inspirations that seem to be all over this thing as well. And once again, the bass comes front and center sometimes, especially on tracks like Beneath Dead Leaves and Unwept, with the latter almost kicking off like a punk track with its rumble alongside the killer D beat. Shifting now in the opposite direction to some much lesser known bands, we have North Dakota's Frosthelm and their 2015 album The Endless Winter. Equal parts 80s thrash of Exodus and melodic grimness of Toke, Frosthelm are a serious force to be reckoned with. One look at this amazing frostbitten cover and the band name, and you can already get a pretty good sense of what these guys are all about. I can almost visualize Abath silently nodding approval with his arms crossed. Insanely fast tremolos, wild palm mute alternations, shrieking treble-heavy chords, and a number of excellent solos to boot make for a high-octane experience. Between the endless blast beats, minor key variations, and shrieked vocals, there is little doubt that Frosthelm are black metal to the bone, and yet I also find myself frequently banging my head and grinning while picturing Zetro Souza in corpse paint. There's just something about the thick chug patterns and cadence of the screams that manages to infuse the Bay Area scene into the otherwise icy riffage. It's a combination I never would have dreamed possible, but I think that is exactly what drew me to this album to begin with, and why Frosthelm even goes so far as to call themselves Thrashened Black. It's the toxic waltz in a snowstorm. Check out the follow-up 2019 album Pyrrhic as well for something a little bit more progressive, but if you ask me, this is where it's at. Then there's Colorado band Necropanther. This is their t-shirt that I'm wearing, actually. These guys initially caught my attention with not only their killer, very Skeletonwitch-esque musicianship, but also their ongoing trend of theming each album around a specific sci-fi novel and or movie. The Dune-inspired Eyes of Blue Light was my introduction, but the band cemented their status as a must-listen group in the genre with the 2019 follow-up The Doomed City. Featuring a delicious union of blackened thrash and melodic death metal riffs, and centered conceptually this time around Logan's Run, this album is an absolute delight. The raging riffs and once again phlegmy, Chance Garnett-esque vocals catapult the listener into a dystopian future world where people are executed for the simple crime of just being too old. Opening track Renew sets the tone from the very beginning in a big way with pummeling drums and death clock level guitar harmonies that are epic in every sense of the word, and this energy persists throughout the entire duration of the album. Furthermore, it possesses all of its predecessor's strengths, but in a tighter and more cohesive package. Gothenburg and Blackened Thrash fans alike should run to pick up this release, and be sure to also check out my very fun sci-fi nerd-friendly interview with the band if you have not already. And that's it, y'all. 5 albums that... Bonus album! Yes, there just happens to be another band besides Vektor dropping an album this week in the same vein called Paranorm. Formed in 2007, this Swedish band has dropped a few EPs over the years, but this will be their first full-length release in Empyrean via Redefining Darkness Records. Again, recommended in particular to fans of Vektor and Voivod, Paranorm is another group taking a more technical and progressive approach to the genre with incredible riffing and expansive songwriting, never satisfied with sticking to the basics. Critical Mass makes for an excellent opening track with its very, again, Skeletonwitch energy on the hook before giving us our first foray into proggier, almost cynic-esque directions. This is quickly followed up by The Immortal Generation, which has a pure 80s sounding heavy metal intro in addition to even more fantastic riffs and raspy vocals that are pure black metal to the core, but also maybe with just a touch of Carcass's Jeff Walker for good measure. We actually get quite a few of these heavy metal inspired moments over the course of Empyrean, as well as some slower acoustic parts that only further my engagement with the increased texturing and dynamics that they bring. Check out closing track Desolate Worlds, Distant Dimensions for a nice cross-section of everything the band is capable of, and just a wild ride in general. It would be really easy for this release to get overshadowed dropping the same week as the new Vektor, but I implore you to give them both a listen and spread the word. Likewise, if you still find Vektor to be a little problematic, this may be the perfect alternative for you. And that's it, y'all. Those are my albums that I would recommend to fans getting started in Blackened Thrash. So now it's your turn. Let me know down in the comments, what are your favorite Blackened Thrash albums and which would be the first ones that you would recommend to somebody just getting started. Let's have a conversation down there. Thanks as always for watching, and of course stick around because I got plenty more videos coming right after this one. I've got a full playlist of these 4 Dummies videos. I've also got full album reviews of new releases, interviews with bands on the podcast, tier lists, you name it, we've got it. Plenty of reasons again to please subscribe if you have not already. Also chat with us on Discord and support on Patreon, but that'll do it for now. Flight of Icarus signing off. I will see you in the trenches.